welcome back, viewers. You're watching NewsX and I'm Kriti Mehta. Now, the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, and the United States President Donald Trump have officially signed the Memorandum of Understanding between Tehran and Washington, with the agreement completed digitally and remotely. According to reports, the development marks a significant diplomatic step as both sides confirm the electronic signing of the interim framework aimed at advancing negotiations on key issues, including regional security and sanctions relief. The White House has now released the text of the memorandum, bringing the agreement officially into the public domain and confirming key details of the deal. Let's now take a look at how the US media is covering the signing. And let's begin with the Wall Street Journal. It says Trump defends Iran deal, says he wants to avoid economic catastrophe. President signed deal Wednesday in Versailles. He has threatened to resume bombing if Tehran doesn't honor it. All right, very important there. Trump still wants bombing is possible if Iran doesn't stick to the deal. New York Times says US official releases text of agreement with Iran. The document leaves complicated issues like Iran's nuclear program still to be decided in a 60-day window to determine them. Important there, once again, viewers, details have not been fully ironed out. Document still leaves issues like nuclear program of Iran to be decided. And then let's take a look at how Fox News channel has reported it. Fox says Trump personally signed Iran deal at Versailles in a major diplomatic breakthrough. This was during a dinner at the Palace of Versailles. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian also signed the agreement. Meanwhile, Pakistan says Strait of Hormuz to reopen amid historic Islamabad MoU, US to lift blockade. So these are some of the developments. Of course, the strait will be opened, much to the relief of the rest of the world. But for the US and Israel, it still may be a cause of concern, given that nuclear program of Iran is yet to be decided upon. CNN says US releases official agreement with Iran and mentions there are 14 points in the text. A senior US administration official read out the 14-point document, which spells out provisions for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, easing certain financial restrictions on Iran, and sets out expectations for addressing Iran's nuclear program during future technical talks. Finally, NBC News says Trump and Iran's president digitally sign MoU with terms to end war. Interim agreement declares an intent to bring about an immediate and permanent termination of military operations in the US-Israeli war with Iran. All right, that's how foreign media, Western media has covered it, US media particularly. From Wall Street Journal to New York Times, we've put out the details for you. Let's now go across to former diplomat Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, who's joining us on this. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us on this news. Big breakthrough there that a deal has been digitally signed. The text has been made public now. Strait will be opened. There are deliberations made on the sanctions that are on Iran. But what does this text mean if Iran's nuclear program is yet to be decided on within this 30-day period?
I think that's a very good question because the first reason that was given by Israel and the United States for launching their twin wars last year and this year against Iran was to obliterate its nuclear program. And yet that has been confined to the second phase of this MoU. That raises the question as to why the can is being kicked down the road. I think this also tallies with the alacrity with which Mr. Trump has signed twice. Remember, he claimed to have signed it electronically on Sunday, his 80th birthday. He is now signing in Versailles, the palace, which is associated with many historic things outside Paris. He didn't have to sign these. In fact, he had assigned Vice President Vance to sign it in Geneva on Friday, but he wants to steal the thunder. Now, it also shows that the text, which has been leaked earlier, doesn't contain any new surprises. It is front-loaded in favor of Iran, with blockade being removed, oil-related sanctions being taken care of, and some financial assets that Iran has had are being unfrozen, despite Mr. Trump's claim to the contrary, that these concessions would be, the money would flow only on performance of the various provisions that Iran has to undertake. The nuclear file being put on the back burner is quite important. It shows that Iran has succeeded in delaying the decisions on this contentious file, which in fact took 1.5 years to negotiate when the JCPOA was reached. And this agreement, this MoU, takes care of other issues as well. So it's likely to be time-consuming, and 60 days period is far too small for this to be done in a bit of a hurry. There is also an issue of Mr. Trump publicly downplaying certain issues which are seriously contended by Iran. For example, yesterday he said that if Iran's neighbors have missiles, he cited UAE and Saudi Arabia, it will be unfair to ask for Iran not to have them. He has also publicly mused that the nuclear issue is entombed. The enriched uranium has been, after Operation Midnight Hammer, has been put inside the underground vaults that it existed in with excess barred. So all that put together shows that he's trying to placate his MAGA base, and that is something which seemed to be the eventual objective of selling this to his supporters and those who believe that the United States has made too many concessions to get an off-ramp from the sticky situation in the Gulf.
Ambassador, requested to stay on with me. I'm going to read out some more news articles, and this is actually how the Israeli media is covering the signing of the deal. We start with the Times of Israel. The headline says Trump suggests Israel in no place to criticize Iran deal for not joining 2020 strike on Soleimani. So US President Donald Trump suggested Wednesday that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is less justified in criticizing the Memorandum of Understanding that he signed this week with Iran because the Israeli premier purportedly pulled out of a joint operation to kill top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in 2020. Then Haaretz says, reports US and Iran sign MoU to end war. Pakistan PM says deal takes immediate effect. France's Macron publishes video of Trump signing the Iran deal. Remember, France, because the deal has been signed in the Palace of Versailles in France. Jerusalem Post, this says Israel's self-defense cannot be infringed upon even if US-Iran reach a deal. This is an editorial which says the reported framework does not yet clearly settle what restrictions Iran would accept on uranium enrichment, what happens to its uranium stockpile, or how sanctions relief would be sequenced. All right, so that's broadly how Israeli media has covered the signing of the deal, of the MoU. Ambassador Sachdev, several questions come to one's mind. Firstly, what is it that the US has taken away from over 100 days of this war? Trump's approach towards Israel has changed. He says it doesn't matter what Israel thinks of this deal. Trump's concern over nuclear program, of course, is not yet certain. And the only significant outcome of this deal is that Strait will be opened and military operations will end. If Israel decides to still launch strikes, do you think the restriction on military operations may be violated?
I think this is a double whammy for Israel. Firstly, it has been denied operational freedom in Lebanon. Secondly, the concessions being given to Iran, the Israelis are afraid would embolden Tehran to continue with its hardline policy against the Jewish state. And the radicals in Iran would take it as a vindication of their strategy having prevailed. And at the top of which, if the negotiations taper off after long winding extensions after extensions, and the nuclear deal is not reached to concluding the total abandonment of nuclear enrichment and removal of non-production of nuclear weapons, then Israel would have its worst fears realized. So all put together, I think Israelis across the board have forebodings from this agreement. They also see Netanyahu being at loggerheads, publicly being scolded and reprimanded, and educatively expletives being used in private conversation against their prime minister. So all that put together, they fear Zelensky-type relations with Netanyahu, as far as Trump is concerned, on again, off again, blowing hot and blowing cold, total disruption of the bilateral ties that have stood the test of time. Till very shortly, Netanyahu was reputed to have mesmerized Trump to sign on the dotted line vis-a-vis Middle East policies. But then this this has totally fallen off, and Israelis, for one of the rarest times since their creation, are left to ponder whether they are alone and friendless in the region and beyond. Their atrocities on Hamas and their hard-fisted response to Hezbollah's militancy has also been a problem with much of the world, including the European Union members and the International Court of Justice and the ICC have both given their tentative verdicts against that country and in fact arraigned few of their leaders and both from military as well as political domain. So all that put together, it's a very serious point of inflection for Israel, security-wise, international isolation-wise, and regionally as well.
Right, Ambassador, thank you very much for speaking to us on this and giving us